Hi, these are the top 10 films of 2004. When I say top, I mean my personal favourite films. 2004 was a great year for cinema, so there's going to be loads of films I left off, so please include your favourites down below. And if you enjoy these videos, consider giving this a thumbs up, subscribing, and hitting that notification button. And with this video, I guess I've finally caught up with covering the history of cinema. So if you like it, check out the others. I did 2 videos covering the 1800s and the first decade of the 20th century, the 10 best films of the 1910s, the top 20 films of the 1920s, 3 videos covering the top 30 films of the 1930s, and from 1940 onwards, I have a video for each year detailing my favourite 10 or 20 films. Yeah, so check out those videos if you're so inclined. Cheers. In at number 10, Collateral. My second favourite film about a taxi driver after Taxi Driver. Michael Mann is one of the best directors to portray LA on the big screen. He gets across the sprawling nature of the city, and much like Heat, this looks beautiful. This neo-noir thriller follows Jamie Foxx's cab driver who picks up Tom Cruise's assassin, and they both take each other for a ride. Fox is great as the everyman, and Cruise is magnificently cool as the soulless villain of the piece. There is some great dialogue and some terrific action.
Your briefcase? Yeah, it is. Why, you want it back? How about your wallet? What else you got for me, huh? Fuck.
In at number 9, Before Sunset. Another beautiful film about a beautiful couple wandering around a beautiful city in Europe. Richard Linklater's sequel to Before Sunrise is another romantic film with wonderful dialogue and astonishing chemistry between its 2 stars. Jesse and Celine meet once again 9 years later in Paris. Unlike their wander around Vienna, this is set in real time, and this little walk around the city of love is full of huge emotions. The film was written by Linklater, Hawke and Delpy, and you can feel how personal this is for all 3. It shows how clever dialogue and little looks can be hugely impactful. This is a beautiful 80-minute film that ends in a truly beautiful way. Did I say it's beautiful?
Baby, you are gonna miss that plane.
I know. In at number 8, Howl's Moving Castle. Another superb Studio Ghibli fantasy film. Following Spirited Away was never going to be an easy task, but I doubt anyone thought Miyazaki couldn't do it. This is very loosely based on Diane Wynne Jones's book. Miyazaki loved the idea of a moving castle and wanted to explore how such a thing could happen, and the castle itself is one of the joys of the film. It is set in a fictional world where a war is raging. A young hat maker is turned into an old woman by a witch. She then leaves her town and ends up encountering a wizard who is refusing to fight in the war. Miyazaki was opposed to the invasion of Iraq in 2003, and this bleeds into this film. It's amazing how this beautiful and charming picture can still get across the utter devastation that can be caused by war. It is also interesting in how it deals with the theme of aging. It shows that with age comes a certain type of freedom, a way to freely speak your mind. And in this, an old woman is not a victim or a nuisance, but a protagonist that saves the day. This is a film that can entertain children as well as adults, while dealing with truly heavy universal themes. Another remarkable, gorgeous-looking Studio Ghibli animation. In at number 7, Bad Education. Pedro Almodovar channels Hitchcock for this, one of his very best films. It's very, very dark, but as it's Almodovar, it's also incredibly colourful. It has a deeply complex, tangled plot that is at times hard to follow, but as it all begins to become clear, you realise just how masterfully the story has been told. The film stars Gael Garcia Bernal as a man who claims he is the childhood best friend of a director. We then go into the past and into films as their stories are revealed in a murder mystery. It deals with sexual abuse, Catholicism and transsexuality. It manages to deal with all these controversial themes in an adult way while all at the same time, making it a riveting thriller. Another masterpiece from Almodovar. In at number 6, The Incredibles. Superheroes meet James Bond style in this Pixar gem. For a long time, this was my favourite Pixar film. In this Brad Bird picture, we enter a world where being a superhero has been outlawed. Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl hide their powers and then later have to convince their children to hide theirs too. Mr. Incredible misses his past life, but soon is given an opportunity to return to a life of adventure. But it all goes horribly wrong, and so the rest of the family have to don their suits to save the day. It's a really fun film that looks fabulous, and it's full of humour, bombastic action, and real family bonds. Pixar at their best.
Here are some other notable releases of 2004.
There were 2 hugely successful torture porn films. The first Saw film was a remarkably violent affair, but not as violent and bloody as Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ.
There were some films from some big-name directors.
Martin Scorsese's The Aviator, Clint Eastwood's $1 Million Baby, but the biggest director of the year, well at least by the end of it, was Morgan Spurlock, who made Super Size Me, where he ate nothing but McDonald's for months. He got larger, but Christian Bale got a lot skinnier for the thriller The Machinist. Winning Best Picture the following year was Paul Haggis's controversially adequate Crash.
If you wanted to cry,
you had the weepy The Notebook or the devastating Hotel Rwanda.
if you wanted to be creeped out,
Then Jonathan Glazer's Birth was for you.
and if you wanted to be baffled,
Then the very smart time travel film Primer was an option. A far simpler sci-fi was the Will Smith-led I, Robot, which was known as Yo Robot in Spain. For comic book movies, we got Del Toro's pretty great Hellboy and Catwoman, which was pretty awful.
Catnip.
In The Day After Tomorrow, nature is a threat to the world, but I think the greatest threat to the world is director Roland Emmerich. He's got a weird obsession with destroying it. Gordon Jeffett Lovett Hewitt gave my favourite of his performances in Mysterious Skin, and the unlikable Zach Braff made the likeable Garden State. Denzel Washington kicked ass and drank a lot of Jack Daniels in Tony Scott's glossy Man on Fire. The excitable fanboy Paul W.S. Anderson made the mess Alien vs. Predator. The strangest cast of the year had to go to Around the World in 80 Days. Jackie Chan and Steve Coogan have zero chemistry in this adaptation of Jules Verne's classic, where they bump into the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger. There was the music biography film Ray. Unfortunately, Ray Charles never saw it. He died tragically 4 months before the film's release. And Wolfgang Petersen's Troy had some fun stuff in it.
it also had Orlando Bloom in it.
I could hunt deer, rabbit, I could feed us.
There were some huge sequels.
The best ever Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, improved on the first film in almost every way. As did the second Jason Bourne film, The Bourne Supremacy. And we even got the best ever Harry Potter film, The Prisoner of Azkaban. The Prisoner of Azkaban. Alfonso Cuarón is such a superb director and was able to make a compelling film. I wish more of the Potter films had great directors behind them. There was the second Shrek, which was pretty funny. The third Blade was dreadful, but not as bad as the second Ocean's 11, 12. And the second Bridget Jones film made fun of the terrible conditions in Thai prisons. And is it a sequel or one film? I still don't know, but there was the second volume of Kill Bill, which had a lot less action and a lot more dialogue.
As you know, I'm quite keen on comic books.
For comedies, you had the very funny Anchorman.
Hey! Where did you get those clothes? At the toilet store?
Team America, World Police.
Helen Hunt!
Samuel Jackson.
Matt Damon.
The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, Napoleon Dynamite, Dodgeball, Mean Girls, and Spanglish, which features one of Adam Sandler's very best performances. For foreign cinema, you had Head On, The Motorcycle Diaries, 3 Iron, The Sea Inside, the exceptionally fun Kung Fu Hustle, the exceptionally beautiful Wong Kar-wai film 2046, and the pretty fun and pretty beautiful House of Flying Daggers. And in the mid-2000s, parkour was everywhere, and we got the fun action free-running film District 13. For British cinema, you had the brilliant revenge drama Dead Man's Shoes, with a superb performance from Paddy Considine.
You know the lads had this ridiculous idea.
Yeah, it was me.
Oh, it was? Thought so.
You also had Closer, Finding Neverland, The Laugh a Minute, Vera Drake, and there was Daniel Craig's feature-length James Bond audition tape, Layer Cake. And there were some misfires from some pretty big directors. M. Night Shyamalan made The Village with his most predictable twist yet. David O. Russell and Lily Tomlin got on like a house on fire on the set of I Heart Huckabees.
Get fucking picture! Hey bitch, I'm not here to be fucking yelled at. I worked on this fucking thing for 3 fucking years, not to have some fucking cunt yell at me.
I Heart Huckabees rated R starts Friday, October 1st in select theaters.
The Coen brothers made a rare misstep with the remake of the classic British film The Lady Killers, starring Tom Hanks, who also starred in my least favourite film of the year, Steven Spielberg's The Terminal. In it, Hanks plays an Eastern European man who gets stuck in JFK Airport when he can't enter America but can't return to his country due to a war. The film displays this Eastern European as a moron.
Krakosia.
Hanks gives him a peasant waddle, and that's the least offensive part of it. He eats like a slob, and he walks into glass windows.
I get full. I get full.
Eastern Europe does have glass. Anyway, I still love Spielberg and Hanks, but to me, this was a mess. Right, back to my top 10. In at number 5, Nobody Knows, a heartbreaking film about family. This is both touching and devastating in equal measure. Based on a tragic true story, we follow a very unique kind of family. A dreadful mother smuggles her children into an apartment, but soon leaves for them to fend for themselves on their own. And it's up to the eldest child to look after his siblings. And it's fair to say, it doesn't end well. Hirokazu Koreeda is one of the great directors working today, and he is superb with child actors. He manages to get remarkable performances where the kids are still kids while also dealing with tremendously difficult circumstances. The bond between the siblings is truly moving. Yuya Yagira gives one of the all-time great child performances as the son desperately trying to keep things together. He's been robbed of a childhood and has an astonishing world weariness at only the age of 12. But throughout you can see how he is still just a kid desperately trying to reclaim his innocence. The film is subtle, and Koreeda certainly earns his reputation as a modern-day Ozu. But as he said himself, he was more influenced by Ken Loach, and you can see that in his work, as he champions and represents the downtrodden and struggling. This is a real tearjerker, but not a manipulative one. A wonder of Japanese cinema. In at number 4, Shaun of the Dead. This comedy... Actually, do you want anything from the shops?
Cornetto.
Astonishingly, they didn't have Cornetto, they only had Kinder Bueno, but
Oh well. I was a huge fan of the comedy show Spaced, and I like to think I was one of the first people to hear about it. When I was just a kid, I was in a queue to meet the voice of Bart Simpson, Nancy Cartwright, and ahead of me was Simon Pegg, who at this point had just been in a couple of comedy sketch shows. Someone asked him if he was working on a new season of Big Train, and he told them he was working on a new show called Spaced that would come out later that year. And the teaming of Pegg and director Edgar Wright was exceptional on that show, with Wright giving the sitcom a cinematic feeling. I loved that show, and so I was particularly interested in their first venture onto the big screen, with this the first of their Cornetto trilogy. This is really nice. They managed to make a zombie film that was both a full-blown comedy while maintaining its horror roots. A very hard thing to pull off. The film stars Pegg as Sean, a man approaching 30 in a dead-end job, barely holding on to his girlfriend and spending most of his time in the pub with his best friend, played hilariously by real-life best friend Nick Frost. When a zombie outbreak starts, he needs to come up with a plan of survival, but ends up holding up in his favourite local. It's a brilliantly British picture. The cast, full of mostly comedians, is fantastic, but a lot has to be said for Wright's cinematic sensibilities. His inventive editing gives this a frenetic energy. It's a remarkable feature film debut, an endlessly quotable rom-com.
I'm not going to say, there's plenty more fish in the sea. I'm not going to say if you love her, let her go. And I'm not going to bombard you with cliches. But what I will say is this. It's not the end of the world.
Sorry, we're closed.
Pisshead.
In at number 3, Downfall, a riveting film about Hitler's last few days. Set in 1945 during the Battle of Berlin, where the writing was on the wall for Nazi Germany, we follow Hitler as he is held up in his bunker. Bruno Ganz stars as the real-life villain, and is simply superb. He is at his wit's end, a shaking, nervous, furious mess who at any time can boil over into utter rage. He is a hideous man to his core, but this film also shows that he had the ability to charm. Of course, this was needed. He needed that skill to win the people over. Some people felt it humanized Hitler too much, but I actually think this is important. These weren't comic book villains. This sort of evil can exist in real men. You see that bastard as a three-dimensional person, but never do you feel for him or even begin to empathize. He is a monster, but one who really existed. This is a man who would play a compliment to a lady or a child and minutes later order the deaths of countless people. He is of course the centre of the film, but the screenplay brilliantly has his secretary as the character who takes us into this tense, miserable world, as she is hired and goes into the bunker with that bastard. The tension in that underground layer is tangible, but the Berlin streets under assault are also brilliantly captured. This is a film with so many historical details and research that it totally takes you back to that time only 80 years ago. This is a very powerful piece of cinema about one of the worst people who ever lived. In at number 2, Sideways. If you try to match them drink for drink, then you die. I love films about weak people. I guess I can relate, and Alexander Payne is one of the masters of making films about exceptionally weak and difficult characters. In this film, we get 2 for the price of 1. Paul Giamatti gives my favourite of his performances as an alcoholic failed writer, and as his dim best friend is Thomas Hayden Church, who is remarkable in the film. Church is set to be married, so before the wedding, Giamatti takes him on a road trip to California wine country, where copious amounts of wine are drunk. This is a road trip film about friendship, and about how difficult good friendship can still be. Much like Mean Streets, this is a film where a close friendship can lead you astray, and both our leads here are terrible influences on each other.
both with the desire to drink, and one of them with a great desire to cheat, which leads them to women played by Virginia Madsen and Sandra Oh. Payne is wonderful at bringing all these characters to life. Deeply flawed humans who are often unhappy, but Payne never fails to make his films funny, and Sideways has some brilliant humour running throughout it.
Do not sabotage me. If you want to be a fucking lightweight, then that's your call, but do not sabotage me.
Oh, aye, Captain, you got it.
And if they want to drink Merlot, we're drinking Merlot.
Oh, no, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
Okay, relax, Miles. Jesus, no Merlot.
And in at number 1, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Another master of creating films about weak people is the screenwriter Charlie Kaufman, who superbly channels his own neuroses and anxiety into his lead characters. And with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, we get one of his most relatable. This science fiction romantic film was directed by Michel Gondry, a French music video director who had partnered with Kaufman 3 years earlier to make the less successful Human Nature. But here both their talents are perfectly displayed. Kaufman's ingenious surreal writing and Gondry's use of inventive in-camera effects. It was a marriage made in heaven. The film tells the tale of a relationship that was never going to be a marriage made in heaven. We follow a couple who have decided to take a treatment that would erase each other from their memories. Kate Winslet gives her greatest performance as a free-spirited woman who does what she wants, and Jim Carrey also gives his greatest performance, dialing back his show-stealing antics to play a quiet and nervous man.
Why do I fall in love with every woman I see who shows me the least bit of attention?
The film takes place mostly within his mind, as we follow their relationship in reverse. But as it goes on, he starts to remember why he loved her and desperately doesn't want to forget her. And so the film becomes a wonderful chase movie through someone's memories. It's funny, charming, and deeply upsetting. It perfectly captures how a relationship can deteriorate and how we can often forget why we fell so deeply for the people we once loved. The film has a great supporting cast, including Mark Ruffalo, Kirsten Dunst, Elijah Wood, and Tom Wilkinson.
Is there any risk of brain damage?
Well, technically speaking, the procedure is brain damage, but it's on a par with a night of heavy drinking. Nothing you'll miss.
Behind the camera are equally great artists, with spectacular cinematography, editing, and a beautiful score by John Byron. It's a film about fading love, fading memory, and fading passion, but is a great example of the power of love and the power of cinema. Right, so counting down my top 10. In at number 10, Collateral. In at number 9, Before Sunset. In at number 8, Howl's Moving Castle. In at number 7, Bad Education. In at number 6, The Incredibles. In at number 5, Nobody Knows. In at number 4, Shaun of the Dead. In at number 3, Downfall. In at number 2, Sideways. And in at number 1, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Well, those are my top 10 films of 2004. What did I leave out? Loads, probably. So what are your top 10 films of 2004? And that's that. This project of doing a top 10 or 20 from every year is over. 7 years I've been doing this. It started in 2018 while I was living in Hanoi and I thought I would simply just go through the 50s. And then the pandemic started and the list making began to pick up pace, going into the 60s and back to the birth of cinema. And I also started counting backwards from 2020, and now I'm done. It's been a hell of an education for me, and I would like to thank the people that have introduced me to so many remarkable films in the comments below. I hope I've been able to introduce a few films to some people too. So thanks for watching, and cheers.